Definitely a bit of a snarky day out today. It's full-on fog and a little bit of rain, and it turned to snow. Now it's just fog. No fish. Not yet anyway. Actually decided to put more of an effort into catching one this morning. Straight up, I find I'm definitely more excited of the idea of filming them underwater. And I've been trying to do that. And it's not easy. It's not easy when there's no fish, right? I've talked to a lot of guys that are angling. Like one guy I spoke with on one of the best rivers I fished on in the past. I mean, we used to get a dozen fish a day in a drift in my drift boat. Sometimes, I remember one time I think we had 15 or 16 steelhead one drift, one afternoon, one day. And he told me that he caught one steelhead the whole year last year there. I'm like, oh God, it's just so heartbreaking. It's just so heartbreaking to witness it fall apart. It's too bad. I think the main reason as well is just the people that are in control, right? The people that are in control, they're in control because they want to be in control. It's not because they're concerned about the environment or the fish, the game, or the natural resources. They're just not. It's sad, it's frustrating. So what do you do? But I've tried fishing now on 8 different rivers, I think. But I've only managed to make it for first light on those rivers, I think, altogether 4 times so far. I've had 3 steelhead on. Have a ladder one and a single barbless hook here with no bait. And what else? And I've videotaped 2 so far out of all the times that I was going to start counting how many times I actually sent the underwater camera down to see how many drifts it takes before I actually see one on the video. And we drifted the camera on a couple of rivers yesterday and the day before, and the clarity of the water was unbelievable. The camera was dead steady, and we never even saw a little fish, not one fish. Hopefully it picks up next month. You know, March and April are the best times to go. Typically, February is pretty slow, but so far it's not looking too good for the fishery as a whole. You know, it's kind of a sad state of affairs. But anyway, let me get some of these emails out. There's been a significant amount of emails coming in from all over the planet. I've had a few people email me claiming to be employed by, what's it called, 3-letter agencies. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I have had people who have contacted me from 3-letter agencies in the past, and they verified with me in private that, in fact, they were who they were. But I've had a couple lately who are, we'll see, I don't know. If I can find their emails in here, I'll share it. I will share them eventually. I can't say it right now, but there are ways for all you people who are employed by the government or whoever, and you're scared about your job, but you are more concerned about the people as a whole, and you want to share some honest information with the people. There are ways to do it, to communicate with me, right? That are a safe way. A Proton email is one for sure. So the people who are employed by the 3-letter agencies who do and want to attempt to communicate with me, you know how to do it smoothly already. You know how to do it. So for anybody out there who is attempting to communicate with me and tell me that they're a member of a 3-letter agency and you're not doing it smoothly, well, there you go. The gig's up, right? All right, moving along. Before I get carried away babbling and confusing people, what do we got? Steve, I absolutely love your show with the changing locations, the people's encounters. I've only been watching for 2 weeks. Thanks for being there. I have 2 stories to tell. I'm from St. Catharines in the Niagara region of Ontario, Canada. I'm an avid camper, hunter in Northern Ontario. In 1953, I was 5 years old. Our family went camping in my dad's VW bus and tent near Rice Lake Serpent Mounds. My dad was tired of driving and pulled off the road at a small picnic area. My parents were setting up the tent just before dusk. I decided to go for a hike, grabbing a banana. I ran about 100 feet from the van and up a little hill toward the forest. I walked down the hill and 4 wolves stood in front of me about 7 feet away. I wasn't scared, and all of a sudden they were gone. Then I noticed this large hairy man kneeling down in front of me. Dark golden eyes on a human face. The rest of him was all hair, dark brown. I stuck my hand out and offered it the banana. He hesitated and then took it from my hand, smelt it, and then ate it. I couldn't see the sides of it. He was so wide and tall. He lifted me up, turned me around, and gave me a gentle push toward the hill. I could hear my dad yelling for me to get back there now. I ran up the hill, turned around, and waved goodbye. It stood up. He was bigger than me standing on the hill, his head in the tree limbs. I ran back to our camp, and my dad asked who I was waving to. I said the giant hairy man and the wolves. My dad went back. They were carrying his camp gun, a Cougar Model 84 single-shot 12-gauge, and heard the low, vibrating growl. My dad came back. He was white. Needless to say, we didn't camp there that night. Maybe we should leave these beings things to eat when they're around to make peace offerings to get to interact with them. 2nd, June 2018. This is still hard for me to come to terms with as my grandkids and I tent in the backyard. A very bright full moon night. I was woke up by a loud grunt and some scratching noises outside my bedroom window. I thought raccoons were in my garbage again. Got up, opened my window wide, and there was a 6 or 7 foot long body on all fours, slowly moving on the neighbor's roof, 12 feet up across from my window. It had to be all of 300 pounds plus, a very large head, maned like a wolf, with long canines, iridescent white eyes, big shoulders, and a deep V-shaped chest. The back legs were shorter but thick. You could see the muscles move under the fur. A long tail and a big tuft of hair at the end. The ears were large and long and lay flat like it was hunting. Its feet were very large, elongated pads, and you could hear the claws gripping the shingles and the vibration of its breathing and low growl. It looked straight at me, not more than 12 feet away. I was paralyzed, couldn't move. I thought it could have dove through my window with ease and killed me, but it grunted, turned, and went over the top of the roof out of sight. The only word I have to describe it is Dogman. It was unbelievable. This is the first time I talked about the Dogman to anybody. I think there are a lot of things that come up from the valley back. There's no period and there's no ending. I don't know if he left out a chunk of the incidents, but that's all I got. So, wow. That's, let me mark this as red so I don't screw up. That was pretty crazy. You know, there's a lot of people I've been informed that a lot of people have been getting angry with me because I haven't been talking about Dogman. I don't know, maybe a bit of a direct message to you loopy people, and I'm calling you loopy for being angry at somebody online, first off. I read these emails as they come in. I don't proofread them, obviously. I don't put them in order. I see them in my email, I copy them, I paste them, and I put them in my notes for this month, and I read them and I share them with you guys. So maybe it's like a game of blackjack. The cards are dealt out to you, and maybe for a handful of deals, there's no Dogman stories coming from me to share. So if any of you out there think that I'm bypassing stories that have a Dogman or canine theme, well, you are absolutely wrong. Alright? They come, I share them. I don't know anything about Dogman myself personally. I haven't seen one. I haven't seen the tracks of them. Have I heard anything that could have been a Dogman? I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? I'm not certain. But getting back to the original poster here, thank you very much for sending that in. You're definitely not alone. There's been a handful of people emailing the same themed story of a large upright hairy being picking them up as a child and not keeping them, fortunately. Obviously, if they have kept children in the past, we wouldn't know about it because the child would not be here to tell us about it, right? But the canine thing on the roof, there's been numerous people have reported seeing the footprints of something on roofs in the snow, hearing something walking on the roof of the house, and also seeing things on the roof of houses. And that is creepier than creepy, right? And as long as everybody keeps sharing it out loud, being brave, we'll eventually figure it out. We'll figure out what's going on, right? Just gotta put a plastic bag back on the camera before it gets soaked. Rude again. Anyway, since I've been here last, it's been, looks like about 7 wolves came through here running down the river about maybe 2 days ago. Cool if we saw one, wouldn't it? Alright, what do we got? Hello, Steve. My story is not an exciting one, but one that has left me scratching my head for years. I've actually never seen a Sasquatch, but I've had things happen in the past that now have me wondering. I've done a lot of hiking in the Sierra Nevada mountains, the forests of northern Idaho, and now in North Carolina. This story takes me back years ago while living in Idaho. I had a 10-acre spread. My mom and dad had 10 acres across from me. I had a few head of cattle at my place, fenced in. Many nights, a lot of coyotes would be around in the area fenced in. I chased them out, and they never did anything to my cattle. However, during a couple different summers, I would hear the most terrible noises that I thought were coyotes. At least that was what it sounded like, except these two separate events weren't normal interactions. It was a much louder and unnervingly off. Needless to say, I never went outside in either event. I would survey my place afterwards, and nothing looked out of the ordinary, no tracks. I wasn't actually scared, but concerned, as the noises I heard were not the normal cacophony of a pack of canines, but that of several larger things that were making similar sounds. So now I wonder, were these creatures, i.e. Sasquatch, Dogman, or similar creatures, out there making that sound to make me think it was coyotes and luring me out? Many times while being outside, I would feel like I was being watched. None of the times where I felt I was being watched gave me that hair on my neck stand up. I would get that uneasy feeling at times while hiking. The weird thing about that feeling is that I was feeling that I need to just go back. I never felt hurried, but just to abruptly turn around and leave feeling. That actually happened to me in just about all the places I live. I'd be walking alone and feeling just fine. Then this feeling that I had not go further or something like that. However, there was one place in California and one in Idaho where I went through and felt the hair on my neck stand up and would get that sudden rush of anxiety and panic and leave. I knew right where those places were and I would never again go near them. As I think back now, I believe that it was a Sasquatch in Idaho. They mean no harm and would watch me from the time to time, but every day that I lived there, I felt all anxiety and stress leave me. I felt that I was at home when I would go down that road and to my place, like nothing will ever harm me while there. It was actually a great feeling. Thanks for all you do, Steve. Feel free to use my name, Clark. All right, Clark. Thanks for the email, man. And, you know, like I've said to a lot of people in the past to date is, if you think it might have been, but you're not sure, but you're emailing me on this channel and you're seeking out this channel online, you know what it was. All right? You already know. Thanks for sharing that email. You know by now, after listening to all these people on here, you're not alone. The exact same thing you described has been experienced thousands of times. Hey Steve, my name is Luke. I'm 24 years old and I'm from upstate New York. My family owns a bit of property in the south central part of the upstate area. I've spent much time there growing up with my sister and cousins, fishing, four-wheeling, and hiking. My uncle and many family friends also hunt whitetail each season, to good success. It's excellent farmland, a lot of forest, great for the black bear population that seems to grow with each passing year. There aren't too many vast expanses of deep wilderness, even in the Adirondacks, but my stomping grounds are still considerably rural. The only exception would be when compared to a place like where you're from. You're a bit far out, LOL. That said, my cousin Ty and I would always have a habit of wheeling after dark growing up, and we'd often park on the back hill halfway through our trip. We'd always seem to get on the topic of Sasquatch, or Squatch as we like to say, ha ha. And he would always tell me how he thought one has been in our property, at least at some point. I wouldn't always take him most seriously, but nowadays I realize the Sasquatch have been in places much farther from wilderness than our property is. Additionally, at some point, I believe in the 70s, a power line was erected, gashing through the state for miles. The plan was changed at the last minute, but my grandma has a hunch that it was only to reroute with such short notice because the original plan was to go through some state senator's land. She thinks they waited to announce Plan B as long as possible so citizens could not construct much concentrated opposition. Not that would work with eminent domain anyhow. Anyway, the power line runs right through the back of our property, right above that back field where Ty and I often ponder Sasquatch. That is partly why Ty is as convinced as he is. He would tell me that Sasquatch use power lines to travel, much like humans use highways. Could you tell me if there's anything to this? Alright, I'll answer that right now before I carry on, otherwise I'll forget you asked me that. Many people claim that Sasquatch use power line right-of-ways to travel through. How would you prove that? To be certain? Well, first off, you'd have to see them, possibly a well-used trail with their tracks going up and down, numerous sizes of tracks, and numerous times of the year. That'd be definitely an indicator that they specifically, quote, use power line right-of-ways to travel, end quote. They've possibly been seen on power lines quite often, but then again, I used to always say to people that black-tailed deer hunting was usually pretty wicked on power lines. But then I migrated into timber hunting and actually saw more game in the thick timber than I did on power lines. And I think the only reason that people would think that power lines are better hunting is because you can see farther. And the farther you can see, the more game you can easily see instead of going into the thick timber to find it, right? So just because you can see more game in the power lines doesn't mean that the game specifically uses the power lines to travel. And that's what I found. Back when I was a kid, learning how to hunt and getting better at it, everybody was always go to logging clear cuts and hunt those at first light and watch them, walk the clear cuts, walk the slashes, hunt the power lines. And then once I got older, more wiser, I realized it was only because you could see farther and you could possibly see more game because there was less cover, more open. But I see way more game in thick timber. Knowing what I do know about these beings to date, a power line right away is 100% not going to benefit them traveling any more than any other area is, as far as physically traveling goes. It's just not. These things are way too powerful, way too big, way too agile. A human-made right-of-way cutting across the country isn't going to make anything easier or more difficult for them. It's just not. Now, is there a possibility that the energy traveling through power lines has something to do with benefiting them? That's a very large possibility and a probability. But again, I can't confirm that, but it's probably would make a little more sense for these beings to possibly be attracted to power line right-of-ways. It's not about the easy access or the easy travel route. It's about what's going through those power lines, would be my guess at this point of the game. All right? Carrying on. New York State has a pretty robust debate alive right now about whether or not we host a resident mountain lion population on our borders anymore. Whether we do is neither here nor there. The point is, they are seen from time to time. And that the thought is they could potentially be passing through from other states. Connecting this idea to Sasquatch, is there any way to determine if some states and provinces might be more preferable for a potential Sasquatch habitat and deduce the amount of sightings that could potentially be of migrate individuals traveling from one primary to another? All right, people that claim, this is just from me, all right? I'm no expert, number one. I am definitely, if I could be called an expert at anything, hunting big game in British Columbia, in the mountains, and angling on the ocean, I may have hit expert status, maybe. Who knows? I have a lot of experience out here. I can tell you with what I know now, if anyone thinks that these beings are a migrating species, they are absolutely wrong. All right? These aren't a simple migrating animal like a gorilla or a chimpanzee or a migrating elk herd. What else migrates? Whales migrate, elk migrate, deer migrate with the snow. No, these are not migrating animal. It's not a migrating animal species. They just aren't. Not a chance, okay? I'm getting off track. Gotta read that. Okay, the big cast of states. I had a Department of Homeland Security agent has emailed me in the past, and he said specifically that the government agents, the government fish and wildlife officers are specifically directly told not to state that cougars exist in certain states, the United States of America. Why? And the number one reason why was the money. Because the money for studies, how did it go again? The money for studies, grants would be withheld and stopped if they confirmed the existence of these big cats. So that is why the Fish and Game officers continually tell people it was something else that they saw, bobcat or whatever. So, and as far as we asked about cougars going from state to state, you guys have to remember, just ignore state or country or provincial man-made borders, because there's none in wildlife lives, all right? There isn't an animal alive that recognizes or sees a state line, all right? So these animals go wherever they want, wherever they please, at whatever time they choose. And if you want an idea how far a predator can travel, like there was one wolf was tagged in northern British Columbia, and it went all the way down to Oregon and then back up to northern British Columbia. Now, you want to go check out the map and see how many states you can fit in a line between northern British Columbia and Oregon. All right, and that's just one wolf. So, for any apparent so-called government official to dictate that a cougar is not there in the forest, they're an idiot. All right, don't listen to them. Just don't listen to them. Don't give them the power of being able to tell you what's up. You know what's up. The people know what's up. If the people are seeing cats, they're there. End of story. There isn't a government official you need to pat you on the back and confirm that for you. All right. I've often heard some of the areas reporting instances cyclically, with clusters of instances occurring every 10 years as one example. I can imagine that we may know so little about them that trying to determine any migratory habits would be guesswork. But if there is any substance to the power line idea, then it might explain why my cousin is so sure the Sasquatch have been around. My other thought was, if Sasquatch are able to manage a lifestyle based in more than one place, is it known what their range could potentially be? In other words, my family property is located within a 2-hour drive of Whitehall, New York. Whitehall is the place I know of interstate that is best known for Sasquatch encounters. And I'm wondering if this is too far a distance for Whitehall and our property to potentially experience the same individual. I know Sasquatching isn't exactly a science. I just know if anyone would know about any potential habits, it would be you. I know you're really busy with life on top of literally tons of emails that you get constantly, so no harm done if this gets lost in the pile or if you don't get a chance to read it. I've gotten acquainted with the virtual version of you over the last year, and I know you kick your own ass on the daily, so I just appreciate how you still manage to get the videos up for the people that love and need it. You're a good dude, and I agree with you. You're probably pretty good at giving those inspirational speeches when you're up on the mountain trying to close a hunt. I appreciate your perspective on life and that you are doing a lot of good for people by giving them a voice. Thank you for that and reading this far. I know I always do. I know you always do. Cheers, Steve. Luke Martin. Luke, I absolutely appreciate you sending that email in, all right? I absolutely appreciate it. And so does everybody else. It takes a lot of time to go out of your way to pump out an email and send it to somebody. And there's so many people. I get another question in there. Yeah, so as far as, sorry, I'm going to get back to the question about the how far can they travel, what's your travel routes. People need to listen to the people, no matter how far out there it may potentially sound. These beings are not a simple animal. They don't have migratory routes, and there is absolutely nothing stopping them from showing up anywhere. All right? Anywhere. I've had military people contact me and tell me flat out that these things made it inside their perimeter, and I've looked up in their security cameras at them, and they haven't a clue how they got in there, and they don't know how they got out of there, and they disappeared. All right? So if you're talking about a being that can do that, they can show up at anywhere at any time. All right? There is nothing out here that prevents them from doing that. Nothing. And like I said before, I don't know how many people, outdoors people, hunters, have emailed me to tell me that they hunted their back 40, they hunted their spot, they hunted their private acreage their entire lifetime. They knew every tree, every rock, every trail. And then all of a sudden, after 15 or 20 or even 25 years, whatever later, one of these things is standing there looking at them. So that is not the sign of a migrating being that typically goes from that area to another, to that area to another, whether it be every 5, 10, 15 years or whatever it is. I don't know. I guess I'm kind of babbling. I'm getting kind of cold too, but in a nutshell, they don't migrate. They're not a migrating species. They will show up where you or anybody has not seen them ever before, and all of a sudden there will be a sighting there, right? So just keep that in mind. They can and will be anywhere they choose at any time, and it may be somewhere that nobody's ever seen them ever before. All right? And that's what I can pass off with confidence. These are not a simple animal. And the people that tell you they're a monkey or an ape and consider themselves a researcher, they are either missing 3/4 of the marbles of a full load, or they're blatantly lying to you. All right? It doesn't take long. If you listen to the people, it does not take long at all to realize that these things are not a simple monkey or a gorilla. They aren't. All right? There's going to be a hell of a lot of people out there that want them to be, so that they can wrap their brains around it and they will not be terrified of the truth. That's the only reason. All right, listen to this. Hold on. Let me put red in front of these before I even read them. Hello, Steve. My name's Kelly Vickers. You can use my name if you wish. I am a believer in Bigfoot my whole life. You know what? I'm not a big fan of the word believe or believer. I am a 100% absolute fan of I know about them, or I know the knowledge. I'm a first-hand experiencer. All right? Beliefs, believer, shouldn't apply to this topic. Okay, where are we? I am a hunter and outdoorsman. I was shown the ways of the woods at an early age by my father. I have no fear of being in the woods alone, usually. I've had 2 experiences in the woods that really have no other explanation than something like Bigfoot. My first was in northern Arizona in the Ponderosa Pine area around Mormon Lake. I went camping by myself to get away from the craziness for a couple of days. I set up camp, put on the classic country music, and sat down next to the fire with a cold beer. Eventually I had to pee, so I walked to the edge of the darkness from the night fire. All of a sudden, it sounded like a herd of elephants crashing through the jack pines in front of me. It scared the crap out of me. I drew my .44 that was on my hip and scooted back to the fire. I got no sleep that night, laying in my tent listening for every little noise. I know, in my experience, that no animals like going anywhere near fire or within 30 or 40 feet of humans. Scary at the time, but a cool experience nonetheless. My second experience happened where I live now in the state of Maine. My son and I were in a 2-man tree stand on a bear hunt. In those thick woods, a human would stand no chance of approaching anything quietly. 2 different times my son and I had a large rock thrown down the trail. You could tell that it was not something falling from a tree like an old limb or something. This actually had a trajectory. You could hear the thump, then the thump, thump, thump as the rock rolled to a stop. My son and I, both being believers and fans of Sasquatch, looked at each other and smiled. We both know what the other one was thinking. We talked with our guide later at the lodge, as well as some other hunters. Actually, there was no ridicule from anyone, just interest. I think that most hunters get it. They know it's real. When you spend a lot of time in the woods, you just know. I know that they're there, without a doubt. Only something with hands can throw a rock. Thanks, Steve, for listening to my personal experiences. P.S. In your video that starts off, State Patrol. Listen around the 20-minute mark carefully. You are not alone that day, my friend. God bless and be safe, brother. All right. Appreciate that email. And just like you know, I know, we know they are there. They're here. I've seen them. You've heard them. We know. Giving the people a voice is huge, isn't it? Giving the people the voice and the power is absolutely huge. I frickin' love it. Love it. Things happen when the people get to speak. I'll tell you what. Greetings, Steve. My name's Dave. I've been watching your show for a while now. I like and respect your no-nonsense attitude. I myself am much the same as you, in that I don't suffer the stupid or those who would try and tell me what I do and do not know. I was directed to your page some time ago by a mutual friend from San Diego, California. Oh, alright, I'm going to leave out that name. I know who you're talking about. So that said, I wanted to touch on something that ruffles my dander a bit. Infrasound. I know these beings use infrasound. The effects of it are exactly the same as DEWs, direct energy weapons. The U.S. Army has been working on these for decades. I raise this because in one of your videos, you expressed your disbelief in their use of infrasound. I sure have experienced it. The disorientation, the nausea, the headaches, the muscle spasms, just to name a few side effects. I can assure you that when they want to, they can and do employ this ability very effectively. Enough said. I've stated my point. Do not wish to waste my time in a futile attempt to convince someone who disbelieves. These beings are an extremely complex people. Although from the exasperation I sometimes call them beings or creatures, I don't have a definitive classification. These are just my conclusions based on my own intuition, if you will. Okay, man, I get what you're saying. I think a few people have took what I said a little out of context. I actually had somebody blew a gasket for me saying that about the infrasound point that I made, and they announced they were unsubscribing and that my channel was now going to fizzle. Hold on a sec. I see a bunch of rain on the lens. Let me clear that lens off, hopefully, and pull that hood over. Tell you what, filming in the rain, it's not the easiest. The point I was making about the infrasound was, it wasn't that I didn't believe that they could do these things to us. It was just the fact that we don't know 100% for certain it is, quote, infrasound. That's what I was saying. So I grew up with things being dictated to me. That's the way it is. That's the way it is, you know. Instead of, we believe it possibly may be this. And that's what I was more getting at. So knowing what these beings can do, which possibly is vanishing before our very eyeballs, which have been reported many times, if that's the case, then perhaps this most simple explanation called infrasound, maybe it's not infrasound. Maybe it's a variation of one of their absolute crazy skills that they have, which may be similar to what many people know as infrasound. So what I was meaning in that video was, we don't know 100% that we can dictate with all confidence it's definitely infrasound they're using, until they either tell us or stand in front of us and show us that it is, quote, infrasound, where I say, possibly, it may be a variation of that and something even much more powerful, yet they only give us a little bit of a dose at a time, which makes it look similar to what we know as infrasound. So that's what I was saying. That was what I was meaning to get across to when I brought up the infrasound factor was that we don't know that it is 100% infrasound. We just feel it may be. And that's why I said, how would we know 100% it's infrasound without being told or shown? So until that time comes, instead of people jumping on the bandwagon, I would like to preferably hear people say, well, we feel it may be infrasound. We're not 100% certain yet because it may be something even much more significant. That's what I was getting at. But thank you for making that mention and giving me the opportunity to clear up what I meant. So I did not say that I did not once say, quote, I do not believe, end quote. All right? Now I assume that you know, I'll keep the names out. All right. I'm a prior active duty United States Marine. I've generalized and specialized training from my time in the Corps, including a secret clearance due to the weapon system I was trained on. In 1994, I was sent to MCMWTC Bridgeport, just outside of a town in Northern California called Bridgeport. MCMWTC stands for Marine Corps Mountain Warfare Training Center, where we are trained in mountain warfare and cold weather training. So, on the last night of our final patrol, I and another Marine, we'll call him Tom, we pulled fire watch. During our watch, we decided to relieve ourselves, so we walked off approximately 25 to 30 yards to our business. Just as I was about finished, Tom walked past me in a fast walk / slow jog, mumbling, I gotta get the F out of here. I watched as he went back to our bivvy site and then looked towards where he had been standing. At first I didn't notice anything, but as I looked up a bit closer, I noticed that a small group of trees in the tree line were swaying gently back and forth. Now normally this doesn't mean shit, except that there was no wind. It was dead still, silent. It was a dead still night. So I moved towards this area for a better look. A million things running through my head at this point. Who was this? What was their end game? Was it a bear? There are black bears up there. Were my squad and I about to be ambushed by another patrol? I didn't know. What I did know is that I had to figure this out. I've never been one to be terrified, but I was that night. So I'm slowly walking toward this area. I saw a breath coming out of the trees, literally feet above my head. Understand that at this time I was 6'1" and 225. Not considered a small guy by any means. So I slid my rifle off my shoulder and I'm slowly moving towards the spot. Rifle in my shoulder, looking down the barrel at this spot when I begin to notice a low, guttural growl. I guess my training kicked in because before I knew what's happening, I'm 15 feet from the tree line and a monster stepped out. Now, given my training and size and distance estimation, I initially judged it to be 10 feet tall and 4 to 5 feet wide at the shoulders, and it must have weighed upwards of 15 to 1,600 pounds. I instinctively brought my rifle to bear on this target. When I did that, it popped to attention, growing an additional 8 to 10 inches in height and width. I can only assume that he had been kind of slouched, like poor body posture. Anyway, when it postured, after seeing me raise my weapon, he made this roar / scream, and I lost my bowels. I was nauseous and stumbled back a few feet from the spot I'd been standing in. I don't know why, but when I collected myself, I lowered my weapon. Most likely to see this thing in the moonlight, a view unobstructed by my weapon. When I did this, he relaxed and just stood there growling. I began to backpedal slowly. Still facing this giant beast, I pied off, keeping him just off my shoulder, and began to sidestep away. When I felt safe enough, I turned and looked towards the bivvy site for a split second, and when I turned my head back to where the creature had been, it was gone. I beat feet back and we moved out from the area that night. I never saw it again, but I swear it was still watching. I could feel it. So there is my encounter. It is what it is. Do it as you will. Sorry if I ran too long. Feel free to use my name, but please do not disclose the name of our mutual friend I mentioned earlier. Thanks for what you do and who you are. Keep up the good work. Dave W. Wow, Dave. That is a humdinger, especially with a loaded weapon. And, it's the size, isn't it? Isn't it the size of these frickin' things that people don't quite wrap their heads around or understand, or they're picking up. These things are freaking huge and intimidating. And I will bet you far more people have lost their bowels than admit. That's for certain. It's something else, man. These experiences that we've all had and shared together is something else. And I was quite pissed off and angry, back not too long ago, fairly often. But it's easy to get angry for me because I can't stand bullies, I can't stand bullshitters, I can't stand power mongers, I can't stand narcissistic power craving maniacs. And this topic has been absolutely riddled with those people for quite some time. And in the beginning, when I first came out publicly and said, yeah, I've seen these damn things, and then the majority of those idiots went to attacking me, so it kind of knee-jerked me into going into defense and fight forward mode more often than not in the beginning, right? But I think I'm starting to, with 4 million video hits per month average on this channel now, it's obvious that the narrative, the attention has been taken from the majority of these people and given back to the people, and it's making a huge difference. But what it also is showing me is that there are so many more people out here that have experienced these things than we previously even had a vague idea of. And I believe they are coming forward now because of all the people, right? All the people are here sharing with confidence and being brave, and it's a no bullshit place to share it. Whereas in the past, look where people had to share this experience. Look at the quality of the characters they had to share this shit with. A bunch of frickin' psychopaths in front of television cameras. And liars to boot, right? But anyway, listen to me go off. I start babbling and I'll lose the point I was trying to make to begin with. But anyways, man, I guess all I'm saying to you directly is I absolutely appreciate you taking the time out to email me. And yes, it's no problem at all to keep our mutual friend anonymous for certain. I believe that person has some contacts that can assist to open up some bright lights for all of us, possibly through me, as soon as this COVID bullshit clears up and the borders relax. But until then, we'll maintain and stay the course and keep sharing here with each other and supporting each other and giving everybody a safe, confident place to bravely share their truth, right? I don't know how long my YouTube channel is going to be able to stay alive. I'm definitely in the works of making another safe place to share, 2 or 3 other places to share the content that is shared on YouTube. I do have a lot to say about the power mongers who are in control of the narrative today. They're in control of people speaking today openly. So obviously my hands are tied a little bit too in a way. I can't freely say what I want to say without the threat of this channel being instantly removed. And I'm not ready for that quite just yet, but I'm getting ready. And I can't wait to say exactly what I really want to say. And I'm not going to stop when we're ready to get out of here and maintain a very, very safe place for all of you, for all of us, right? But anyway, I'm cold. I hope I'm talking loud enough, but this river behind me is very, very loud in my ears. And I've got that, what's it called, tinnitus? My ears are absolutely ringing since that day that guy just about blew my head off with the 300 Weatherby Magnum. And these sounds behind me are really amplified. And it makes me feel like I have to talk really, really loud to you guys. So I hope I'm not talking too loud, and I hope we got it across clear. And I need to get it moving again and get that hook in the water and see if I might be able to catch a fish before I go. And also before I go, I'm going to set this camera up again and see if I can't get another handful of emails shared before it's absolutely pouring rain and I can't do anything today. All right, be safe out there. And we'll talk to all you guys shortly.